Hello everyone, Peter McPhail with Lifestyle Properties of Maine. It is No Shave November here in the state of Maine, and beautiful mid-November day. We're actually in the 50s. I am on the shores of Sisley Lake in the town of Lakeville, and just wanted to thank all our viewers that are watching the channel. And it's interesting to hear from you guys about a lot of you have lived in Maine, you're Mainers, but you moved away. And you like to watch our channel because it helps you with overcoming some of your homesickness. So we do appreciate you watching. Wanted to also say hi to Ed and Pam, our longtime viewers down in Alabama. But we are going to look at a 51.5 acre lot here in Lakeville. It's off grid, but it's not too far from this boat launch. So obviously if you buy the property, you can have access to a lot of fishing opportunities here in the town of Lakeville. So let's head over and take a gander at the lot. This is one of the ways into the 51.5 acres. This is actually Sys Road, S-Y-S Road, which basically off to our left, we're heading up the east side of Upper Sisley Lake. So off to our left is the lake. And one of the things about owning this particular property is you would have a deeded right. There's a lot on Upper Sisley and some of the other lakes out here. So you got Upper Sisley, Lombard Lake, that you have a deeded right across one of the lots to get to the water, to kayak or do whatever you want to do. But this is a gravel road going in. It is seasonal. Nobody keeps this plowed out. So we're turning off from Sys Road onto Little Trees Trail. This will take us up to pretty much dead ends on the property that we're looking at. So if you're looking for privacy on an off-grid location, this is about as private as it is going to get. We'll be there in just a couple minutes. So we're turning off from Little Trees Trail onto the last little leg here into the property. It's called Dam Buster Branch Road. And there's a dam, I think they probably named that after the beaver that had dammed up the small brook that flows through the property. But coming right up, we are crossing the boundary line. Just crossing onto the property now, and it's on both sides of the road. So we get parked up here and we'll do a little bit of walking through the property, give you an idea of what we got. So behind me here is part of the property. It's about roughly a 10-acre wetland area where there's a brook that flows through. And the topography on both sides of this area, the topography is elevated on both sides, so it kind of creates a natural bowl wetland area. And there is certainly moose sign here, so I think you could sit here. It's so peaceful and quiet, and you could probably watch some moose feeding out here in this little beaver pond. This is the small brook that flows across the edge of the property, and the mapping here, it doesn't really give a name to it, so that's going to be up to the new owner that buys this. They'll get to name their own little brook here. But it is a pretty water feature that flows out of that beaver pond area. Let's head further into the property and look at the access road that runs through it. You got some white birch here and some maple over in this opening, and this is the access road that runs through, and it actually divides the lot into approximately, I'd say about 10 acres on the west side of the road, and then the balance of the 41 or so acres is on the east side of the road. The soils here, they're loamy but very stony soils, so you could probably do some minor gardening. And I would say as you have somebody come in with an excavator to do your site work, then you could move some of the rocks and then be able to do a little bit more gardening than if you're really into that. So let's head further into the property and take a harder look at it. So I've walked into the woods here on the west side, the rough 10 acres section of the road on the west side of the road. and it's mostly hardwoods in here. You can see this nice maple right here, and then there's a lot of small white and yellow birch, some other red maples in here as well. Again, as you can see, here's one of the stones, but this is a Hermon soil, which is a sandy loam, but just very, very stony. Pretty forest in here, but let's head over on the other side of the west side of the east side of the road. We're over on the east side of the access road now, and you can see the timber's very similar to the other side of the road, a lot of hardwood species. But behind me, you can see a thick wall of green growth. So you've got a lot of cedar trees in there. And the reason being is that's the edge of that wetland that we looked at earlier in the video. But we're gonna head up towards the other end of the property. So I'm standing next to a spruce tree here on the property, and I know we've talked about this in previous videos, but firs and spruce. The spruce, if you grab that, the needles will stick into your hand, so you can't grab that real hard. But I wanted to talk quickly about this property as far as we're definitely off-grid, out in the middle of nowhere. There are some protective or restrictive covenants, and let's just talk about a few of them. The lot cannot be further divided into lots any smaller than 10 acres. So if you wanted to go in on this with a family member, you could do that. You could split the lot, but you have to create, anything you create has to be at least 10 acres. You can't do any commercial activity here. You can't do any industrial activity. There's no mobile homes allowed here. You couldn't have a campground. You couldn't have a multi-family. He said, hey, I'm gonna come in and build a 2 or 3 unit apartment building. Now that's not gonna work here. So really this is a spot to build your single family off-grid home or your cabin to come escape to. The other thing here too, in the history of this property, it was at one time owned by the Penobscot Indian Nation. And any properties that they had owned, and if it's in the deed of ownership, the chain of title, if you're digging around out here and you're like, oh wow, I found a big piece of gold, or I struck oil. If you find any sort of minerals and you decide to harvest those, you do have to give 35% of that to the Indian Nation. Now, make sure you understand this. Nobody has a right to come into this property and do mining for minerals. It's only if you find it do you have to share it with the Indian Nation. So make sure we're clear on that. Nobody has a right to come in and mine on this property. Thanks for joining me today on this 51.5 acres in Lakeville. Just to give you some ideas about the area, Lakeville has a population of about 100 people. The service town to here is going to be Lincoln, and that's about 45 minutes away. Bangor International Airport is south of us by about 1 hour and 40 minutes. The city of Boston is about 5 hours away. And I wanted to clear up today, there's a myth out there that there's no land financing available, or it's very hard to get financing, because I do have a lot of people that they'll email us asking for owner financing. And I think they just assume that it's hard to get financing for land. But in the state of Maine, we work with some local lenders, and we've got some great programs. One specifically I can think of is we have 100% financing. The lender will finance up to 100% of the purchase or the appraised value. And it's a fixed interest rate. And it depends on your credit score, but I think you're probably looking at 6.75 rate for up to 12 years on a property like this. So financing is excellent. So come take a look, and I'm going to get you some aerial photos of this as well today. Thanks again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.